Good evening, Nigeria, and welcome to our viewers watching from around the world. This is Politics on Sunday, live from the nation's capital. I am Femi Akonde. It has been an interesting week in the country. Different issues divided opinions. First was the declaration of a state of emergency in Rivers State and the argument that followed about if President Bola Tinubu had the constitutional right to suspend an elected governor. But quickly attention shifted to the National Assembly and there were calls on them to void President Tinubu's state of emergency. Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar particularly called out opposition lawmakers in the National Assembly, directing them not to endorse this controversial proclamation of a state of emergency. But it appears his loud calls fell on deaf ears. Or maybe his voice no longer resonates in the opposition camp. Or could it also be that the system was rigged with the manual and somewhat outdated shouts of ayes and nays? Could that be why Atiku Abubakar is spearheading a major coalition of other political forces determined to win President Bola Tinubu at the ballot in 2027? His co-travelers on this journey are increasing in numbers. Well, I don't know if the numbers mean they are stronger. How credible are these coalescing political forces whose purpose is to defeat President Bola Tinubu on the ballot? And how far can they go? Joining me live on the program today is a prominent opposition politician, a former presidential candidate, founder of the African Action Congress, and a human rights activist, Omoyele Sowore. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thanks for bringing me. Good evening.
Yes, we're talking about this coalition. It's dominated talking points in the country. You know, everyone have seen Atiku Abubakar, El-Rufai. Some people even say Peter Obi, maybe Kwankwaso and all of that. Where is Omoyele Sowore in this equation?
I'm not part of the equation because this is not an equation. I am a person who doesn't believe in coalitions that is here to strengthen an existing coalition. And the APC itself was a coalition in 2013, 2014. And the guys who are forming this coalition were the people that formed the APC. So I do not believe that they are planning to unseat President Tinubu.
So what could they be planning to do?
They are planning to help him win the next election.
Oh, really?
By forming a coalition that would give the impression to Nigerian people that this is a real coalition, so that Nigerians will not form their own coalition of the oppressed. There is no way anybody in this coalition can defeat Tinubu. It's the people of Nigeria forming a coalition of the oppressed that can defeat him in 2019. These are his friends. These are his advisors. These are people that they meet every day. They are co-friends, co-travelers who know that this will not go too far. But they want to create an impression. This is actually a team that is out to negotiate for recognition and probably get closer to power, not interested in defeating him. They want to defeat him. They will not have some of the characters that you see there in this coalition. People like El-Rufai, no credibility, because he was the one who buried 300 Shiites overnight. People of Southern Kaduna know what he did to them. You know how he was talking about body bags. Atiku himself, who was a member of, I think, ACN at a point. Yeah. He was a member of PDP. He was a member of APC. They formed APC together. So these guys are not a coalition that is going to defeat anybody. I am saying it here that we need a coalition of the oppressed to defeat all of them together, including Tinubu, in the next election. But not these people.
Yes, you know, you are one politician that has remained consistent since forming your party, the African Action Alliance.
African Action
Congress,
yes.
AAC, yeah, in 2018, yes. And you're talking about a coalition of the oppressed. What's your effort in that regard, since you say or you have discredited this coalition of Atiku, El-Rufai, and their likes?
Before I answer that question, let me tell you, we got here through all this kind of marauding coalition. In fact, in 1999, the first civilian political party that brought us there was the PDP. It was a coalition. In fact, it was such a coalition that they all claimed in the coalition that they were unwilling. It was a coalition of the willing. They said, Obasanjo said, you know, I'm not interested in the presidency. It was all a lie. But when that coalition was to be defeated, some people left PDP. They called them New PDP. Yeah. They joined those people who were in CPC, joined the guys from ACN, which was the Tinubu's wing, and they formed the APC. So where are they going to come from with new ideas, with new integrity, with honesty, to defeat the man that they have always been friends with? You know what they used to call association of friends in Lagos in those days, all paso. You know, that's what these people are. But to now answer your question, see, there's hunger in the land. Everybody is upset that they are suffering, and coalescing together means that we bond together and fight for our lives and create a new movement. When I say new movement, as if a movement didn't exist before. But the movement cannot do business the way it used to be done before. It's only crazy people that do that. You know, you keep repeating the same style. So these guys, at best, can only become the new set of oppressors. Let's assume that they are serious. They are going to come in and continue where these other persons stopped. But I know them very well. At least I'm knowledgeable enough, having run for presidency twice. Yeah. I know these characters that you are seeing on the screen now very well. There's no one of them that is seriously interested in any progress for Nigeria. They can only come and replace, you know, the tires of the old vehicle. Not even replace the tires. They'll probably just replace the air in the tires. Nothing new, no new ideas, no ideology. These are groups of people that are carpetbaggers, gerrymanderers, people who go to bed in PDP uniform. By the time they wake up, they're APC. Some of these people you are saying, you can quote me, in another 1 year, half of them might have joined the APC. We were saying it in 2023 that the Labour Party was an Airbnb. You know what Airbnb is? Yeah. It's a short renter. Indeed. Everybody was abusing it, especially the people who call themselves obedience. The Labour Party is the biggest, the revolutionary party. They even compare their candidate to Nelson Mandela. Where are the Labour Party people today? They have all gone back to the APC. Or, at best, they are preparing the apartment for new occupants.
Yes, and you know, the road that's in the path of Nigeria's political journey is dangerous, rough, and lonely. At least you could make do with some complaint. You're not considering any form of coalition. Maybe not with these ones.
No, the coalition I've expressed to you, the people. The last election I had how many voters? Maybe 25 million. So you still have at least 30 million people who did not participate in the election. Let's assume half of them participate in the next election as fresh, you know, voters with new ideas, new ideology. They will defeat all these people because the winner of the last election, or selection, as I like to call it, only got about 9 million votes, right? The runner-up was like 8 million. So anybody with 10 million votes and above in the next election will defeat this guy. So we just need 50 million people who can wake up, decide that enough is enough. We don't want the old order, the old guards. We want to change everything. And the coalition that you are looking for is there. It is not coalitions that win election or votes. It's people individually that take their time. But of course, coalitions can help you coalesce, bring them together, mobilize them, energize them, or as we say, ginger them. But they don't, that's not what's going to win. People say have to go out on the election day individually and vote. They're not going to vote for their coalition. They're going to vote for political parties and candidates. You know,
and that seems to be the problem. We see the momentum ahead of the election. We see sensitization all around. We see different movements. Like you said, the obedient movement. Yours is a take it back movement. There is the Baptists, the ones that call themselves the articulated movement and all of that. But on election day, a lot of these people, more than 50% of them, do not come out to vote.
You know why?
What really is the problem? And we're beginning to see a decline in the number of people that turn out to election day.
Because it's a function of confidence in the electoral process, especially the umpires. what we must all agree is that we're no longer holding elections in this country anymore. Subsequent elections since 1919 have just, I'm not in any way saying that any election was good. Probably the only election I can, stick out my neck for a little bit was 1993 June 12th election. That was free and fair and happened across the country peacefully. It was credible. The only place where June 12th election did happen was Ogoniland. So, but any election after that, there were elections that was held in this country. I think it was Obasanjo's second election in 2003. There were no serial numbers for the ballot papers. They forgot to put it. And when they went to court, they said, you don't need serial. No, how do you then count? So then now, we're no longer doing election. We are doing selection. INEC will just allocate votes, and we'll select, and then they announce to you. And when you want to cry out, they say, go to court. And of course, they know that they own the courts. That
maybe if people turn out, it would also be difficult
for those. That is the coalition
that
we are talking about, that people have to overwhelm them on that. It has to be shock and awe. But that also must happen before election. You cannot go into any election in Nigeria of today with the structures in place, the electoral processes in place, with the thugs, the security agencies all over the country, and win against established system order. You can't defeat the APC on their own terms, on their turfs.
It's impossible. APC defeated the PDP.
Because why? The PDP had split into two at that point. I told you, the APC was formed by PDP, CPC, ACN. It wasn't a coalition that was here to save Nigeria. It was a coalition that wanted to take over power from people they disagree with. And that's why we're in this mess today. But I'm saying anything that is going to do this must have something that's fresh. The agenda must be different. We must be aggressive, but we must demand, make sure that we have a clean slate before we. But if you are going to go into this election, I'll give you an example. Tinubu just appointed 11 Supreme Court justices since he came. We only need 7 of them to decide on election matters. But if the battle that needs to be fought, and I'm saying it, is fought properly, and the elections are held properly the way they hold even in India, where there are 1.7 billion people, Brazil, nobody might need to go to court because it will be so transparent. If you lose, you will accept. If you win, you will be congratulated.
So over time, you've not seen any significant improvement in the electoral process?
I have only seen and noted significant decline in the electoral process in terms of integrity, in terms of commitment, focus, transparency, and credibility. Those things are not present anymore. And you see them even when the tribunals are convening, even though if you go to tribunal, you already know the outcome. But even some of the activities you see in the tribunal, you see clearly they will be overvoting and the judges will say it's not a problem. You see clearly situation where there were no votes and you see numbers and they will say it's not a problem. Look at all the off-season election up to Edo State. Truth is that regardless of where you sit on the side of the table, you cover the elections and you report back and say, well, we didn't see election, but somebody is declared winner. And before you could say Jack Robinson, he has a certificate of return and it's grinning from ear to ear. And then you are going to go to the tribunal with the person who is already in possession of the state's purse, treasury. He can afford to pay whomever he wants. You who probably won and was declared loser, we have to go and borrow money to fight at the tribunal. It's just, those are not elections. But what I'm saying is that look at our electoral process, what it has become. It's no longer election. I'm reiterating that it has become selection. And if Nigerians go blinded or blindfolded into another election, you will get another selection. They would have. In fact, I can tell you that the person who is going to win the election probably has been decided. And we're all just.
How could that be?
You know now, it's your man.
Who's my man?
The Tinubu. They probably decided it already.
Well, let's move on now. You see, you talked about the election which you think was the most credible ever in Nigeria's history, which is that of 1993, and the Social Democratic Party, SDP, won that election. But now we're seeing SDP, let me call it a resurgence of the SDP now. They appear to be the beautiful bride. We've seen El-Rufai move into the SDP. Hamza Al-Mustafa also now in the SDP. It appears as if more politicians will cross to the SDP. This resurgence of the SDP, could it be deja vu, you know, winning in 1993, and who knows, they might just get lucky again in 2027 with the new entrants they're having?
The people who are going to SDP,
it's the same SDP, you know, Abiola, on whose platform Abiola won that election.
Do you know that there's a biological terminology known as mutation? When a living organism starts out as a worm, and then over time it becomes a snake. You know, it's called mutation. The SDP wasn't even a party that I could say like I'm proud of, because it was created by Babangida in his a little to the left, a little to the right, created SDP and the National Republican Convention as the NRC. So I can't identify. To be honest with you, I didn't vote in 1993 because I was at the university and we were in NANS, National Association of Nigerian Students, of blessed memory. I'm not talking about the current one. And we decided that nobody could trust Babangida to hand over power. So we didn't vote. We only came out after Babangida tried to annul the election. But everybody certified across the country that elections were free and fair, and that we felt it was just, fair, and pertinent on our part to jump on that and use that to drive the military out of power. So the SDP of 1992-93 is not an SDP I'm proud of. I don't know. I'll make the public disclosure here. The presidential candidate of SDP in the last election is my friend, Adebayo. Yeah. So, and he knows himself that he inherited a party in which, he had one leg in one place and the other leg on the other. So, but he wasn't the chairman of the party. But what I can tell you is that I'm a chairman of a political party, that's the AAC. So I get to meet political parties at meetings of political parties with INEC. And if you know what happens in those meetings, there are 18 of us left now. There used to be 79 political parties in 2018, 2019. These political parties are not, most of them are appendages of the major political parties. In fact, some of them were created by the mainstream political parties so that they can use them as special purpose vehicles. I do not know where SDP is going, but within 2 days after El-Rufai arrived, they had already torn the place apart. They were going to remove Oluwagunloye, and there must have been a reason why they want to remove him.
Well, everyone is fighting for control.
Exactly.
El-Rufai coming to the party would also want to have some form of control.
But you see, one thing I know, and I will disclose here, is that the SDP is a family of Ahmed Bola Tinubu as well. It's one of the branches of his ministry. Yeah. So I don't know if he has lost interest in the SDP, but if it was the SDP before he won the primaries of the APC, it's going to be tough for these new entrants to get too far within the. There's a small turtle in our area in Ondo State. They call it Aluke-Luke. That's the local name for it. When children go to play with it, he will allow the parents to walk away, and he will open up, and when the child puts his hand in between it, he will close until the parents come. He will never let go of the finger of the child. That's what the SDP might be for all these entrants. And I want to make another prediction. It may not come to pass. Because it was like they sent El-Rufai to SDP as a circus. There's a circus, when you have like all these dangerous animals and you want to do a circus, you send somebody to go inside first. And it seems like when El-Rufai came, he was mauled by the first lion. I don't know which lion mauled him. Maybe it's Adebayo or the SDP people who knew this was going to happen. And I suspect that not as many people were going to move over to SDP would do so, because I think they found out that there's a turtle there that's probably going to handle them differently. But like I said, I'm not a member of the party, but I'm just giving you, my own understanding of the political.
Clearly, you think the SDP is going nowhere.
I don't know how far they can go, considering these characters that are jumping over the place, and my own personal conviction that this coalition is not about winning election. I think it's a coalition for negotiation, and it's a coalition to distract the Nigerian people, to create an impression that there's going to be opposition to the current APC government. Whereas these are APC operatives.
Well, I think
most of them.
Let's move on. I would like to hear your view on. Yes. I know you have spoken very much extensively about the recent proclamation of a state of emergency declared by President Bola Tinubu, and also suspending Governor Siminalayi Fubara, that's the executive now, and the State House of Assembly. If you were president, you have contested twice now. If you were president, how would you have managed the situation? Would it have been different from the way it's been handled now? Because the presidency, or President Bola Tinubu, says there was clear and present danger to national security, especially oil installations, which, it's the lifeline of the economy.
When the Speaker of Lagos came back from abroad after he was removed and went and broke into the State Assembly, why didn't the President declare a state of emergency in Lagos?
But the scenario, they're not.
How's it different? Was that not a threat to security in their almighty Lagos, where
no, we're talking about blowing up oil pipelines?
Who told you? Who was found to have blown up the pipeline?
Security reports.
Which security report? Can we see it?
Well, these are classified, and
No, they are not supposed to be classified, because transparently the public should know. But I'll come to it. There's no way I will be president of Nigeria and I will be declaring a state of emergency so as to cede a state to a special interest, a minister in my government. I would have fired the minister. If you are minister of the Federal Capital Territory and you are supposed to go to work every day and you are not satisfied with your position to the point that you still want to retain a state where you used to be former governor, I will fire you as my minister so that you can concentrate on looking for was crumbs. I want to bring another Yoruba parlance word, but there's an English version of it that, you cannot be carrying an elephant on your head and be using your toes to be searching for crickets. That is what it is. But what has happened in Rivers State, let's put it what it is not about any godfatherism. It is how Nigeria is experiencing what is known as state capture, where you bring the judiciary, the legislative arm and the executive, without any checks and balances, just decided that, look, we can get away with anything, and then you go after some of the most, luxurious states in it, and because Rivers is definitely not poor for political reasons. And
maybe that's why it was important for the president to declare a state of emergency. But he also says his action is backed by the Constitution.
Which Constitution?
Section 305.
This is why I don't discuss the Nigerian Constitution, because I don't believe in it. It's a fraudulent document created by the military.
And maybe until we have a better Constitution, the current Constitution could justify his action.
No. We don't have to have see, Tinubu was a supposedly former pro-democracy activist. And I am getting the feeling that all the time they claimed they were fighting against the military, they were actually envying, the dictatorial nature of the military leaders at that time. I guess that's why they all ended up smiling, laughing, and having a great time at Babangida's book launch, because they have always wanted to be like him. That's what I saw there. Otherwise, who is in charge of national security? Is it the governor or the president? So if they are blowing up pipelines, you declare a state of emergency. So what happened to Zamfara State, where they have been blowing up human bodies? What's happening in Borno, where they've been blowing people up every day, suicide bombers? What's happening with all the kidnappings that is going on? If you look at the preponderance of security problems across Nigeria, do you know where we should be declaring a state of emergency? Across Nigeria, the whole country should be under a state of emergency. And if your logic is sound, then the president should be asked to step down, the vice president.
And who will be in charge?
I can handle Nigeria for a little bit and make things work.
All right, then, before we go, I would like to ask you this. I see you in court, I see videos of you in court every time Nnamdi Kanu appears in court. And his case has lingered for too long and so long. Shouldn't we be talking about a political solution now to resolve all of these and probably give closure to the people of the Southeast and maybe peace too?
one thing I find very difficult to understand is why, no matter who is occupying position of power, something is always absent all the time. And that's part of why we are discussing this river state. It's like there's absence of common sense on the corridors of power. I think because there are just too many sycophants in Nigeria. The Kanu situation didn't need to last one day longer than the day Buhari left. Kanu was Buhari's personal prisoner because those people, the Buharis of this world, believe that Nigeria is a real estate that must be held together, it must be united. But you would think that people who claim they have broad minds about what Nigeria is, the diversity of Nigeria, the crisis, is the first person they would have done. The first person they would have let go is Nnamdi Kanu, because didn't we let go Sunday Igboho? Are we not? Have we burned down Yoruba land? Before Buhari left, I was one of the people fighting for Ezaki. The argument by those who were opposed to his release was that if he comes, he will burn down Kaduna. Ezaki has been out of jail now for how long? He doesn't even have time for Nigeria. He has become an international ambassador for Nigeria. He goes to Lebanon, Iran. I've seen him in Iraq. He has not had time to even rebuild his area base. That shows to you that what of some of the fear-mongering that happens on the corridors of power is driven by unreasonableness, and that is why I just want to say, look, eventually they are going to resolve the issue politically, because the political issue is a self-determination matter. There's no court of law that can resolve Kanu's matter. Even if he's found guilty by their own standards, it's still going to be he's a political prisoner forever.
Some people have also said that there are also some political interests, even from his region, who do not want him to be free.
We know that, because I was earlier in, I think, 2023, I was part of some conversation to release him. And what came straight was from Imo State, that he can't be released before the election in Imo State, that he will affect them. And after that, everybody kept coming and said, don't release him, and here we are.
All right, we have to go now. I must thank you very much for your time on the program. Omoyele Sowore, politician and human rights activist. Well, that's our package on the program this week. Do not forget, you can see this episode again on TVC News YouTube channel. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time.